Good evening, everyone. As we settle down, and I welcome everyone to today's session, Selecting for Impact, How to Improve Book Quality in Your Institution, organized by Wolters Kluwer. I am Dr. Dravid, Marketing Manager for Wolters Kluwer. I will be your moderator for today's event. Our objective for organizing this webinar is that participants should be able to understand what is Doody's review and in what way it is helping the institutions across the world in making an effective decision for purchasing the books, and how it can empower them to make smarter, quicker, and more informed decisions. Participants will have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenters by typing your questions in the question pane of the control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and address them during our question and answer session at the end of today's presentation. And also, a recorded version of this webinar will be available and will be shared after the event. So to give a context, so books, whether it in eBook or in print format, are a critical enabler of institutional pedagogy. Considering their importance in teaching and learning, it is essential that institutions use objective criteria for selection. So librarians often use faculty recommendations to guide their selection, but faculty members themselves may be using an availability heuristic. Hence, there is a case to be made for balancing user inputs with high quality, reliable independent reviews. Doody's review helps medical libraries and institutions with their purchasing decision based on quality. It provides them a list of best titles published within a variety of medical specialties. So this webinar will help in understanding what is Doody's review and in what way it is helping the institutions make purchase decisions. On this note, today we have an excellent panel of speakers, and I would like to introduce today's first speaker, Mr. Dan Doody himself. So who is the president and CEO of Doody Enterprises. Since 1993, Doody Enterprises has been the most trusted source of comprehensive, timely, and expert information about newly published books in the health sciences. More than 5,000 librarians worldwide rely on Doody's review services or Doody's core titles to help guide their collection development decisions. To provide its unique services, Doody Enterprises has forged successful relationships with more than 250 health science book publishers and established a network of more than 9,400 academic health sciences professionals as expert reviewers. Prior to starting Doody Enterprises, Dan worked for 15 years in various general management, editorial development, and sales and marketing capacities for medical publishing companies, including 13 years at Mosby Yearbook. And our next speaker is Dr. Dipali Kubakur, Head of Digital Library, Tata Memorial Hospital at Mumbai, and coordinator of its satellite center libraries at Navi Mumbai, Punjab, Visakhapatnam, Guwahati, and Varanasi libraries in India. She has more than 16 years of professional experience. She is responsible for coordination with different departments in TMH to assess the information needs, management of medical information resources, and providing reflective and timely medical information services for the betterment of cancer treatment services to medical fraternity. She is the recipient of Distinguished Cunningham Memorial International Fellowship of Medical Library Association, USA. She has published articles in national and international journals and presented papers in conferences. She is a life member of Indian Association of Special Libraries, Bombay Science Library Association, and Indian Library Association. And again, for those of you just joining us, I welcome you once again. Now I welcome Dan Doody. Hi Dan, thanks for joining us from US. I know it's very early there, it's very early morning. It is an honor for us that you have agreed to join us and share your thoughts. Over to you, Dan. So you may present. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Dravid. It is an honor for me to be participating and to be invited to share some thoughts with all of you about Doody's review service. I'm grateful to all of you for your interest, and hope that we can tell you a little bit more about the purpose of our collection development services and the features that that they present. So I began my company, the Doody's Review Service, um, almost 29 years ago, because there was a problem. And the problem was that it was very difficult for librarians to judge the value of individual book titles. There were at least 4 major factors that contributed to that problem. The first was the breadth of the literature. For a teaching hospital, an academic medical center, there were more than 140 different specialties in the basic sciences, clinical medicine, nursing, and the allied health professions that comprise health sciences publishing. Secondly, the amount of new book titles entering the marketplace every single year was quite significant. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the next slide. And when I started the company back in 1993, book content was really only presented in print and occasionally on CD-ROMs. Now book content is presented in multiple formats. It can be in multiple formats simultaneously. It can be in print. There can be a simultaneous publication of an ebook. The title can appear on electronic platforms. The title could also, there could be an app version of the title. And then finally, and most significantly, is the high cost of individual book titles. The average cost in the US of a medical book is in excess of $120. So these purchase decisions have to be made carefully and judiciously because there's just not enough money to purchase all of the books one might want to purchase. I said I'd talk a little bit more about the volume of the literature and why this presents a problem. There's more than 120 different publishers actively publishing new books in the English language in these 140 specialties in the health sciences. Since we've been cataloging these books and reviewing them since 1993, there's been a very consistent and steady output between 2,500 and 3,000 new titles published every single year. And as I said, in almost every instance of a new publication, the content's available in multiple formats. So we endeavor to try to provide a solution to this problem by creating 2 different collection development tools. And I want to say that while we are a commercial company, we depended entirely on our library board of advisors to help us with the construction of both Doody's review service and Doody's core titles. So they really were intimately involved in the design of the product and even the look and the feel of the product. And we still consult with our library board of advisors on an annual basis to make improvements in our products and to introduce new products. Let me talk about our 2 major collection development tools. Doody's review service is our flagship service. It's been around since 1993. It was in print exclusively from 1993 until 1995, and then in 1995 we introduced the web-based version of Doody's review service, and we retired the print version in 2001. It is a comprehensive database of information about the health sciences book literature. We have information on more than 200,000 titles. In addition to providing timely and comprehensive and accurate information about the book, we also commission independent expert reviews of about 50% of the titles that are published or that we receive every year from publishers. So we're publishing between 1,800 and 2,000 2,000 new reviews every single year. And we do it across all 140 specialties that we cover. In 2004, with the help of our library board of advisors, we realized there was the need for a more compact and condensed and more accessible collection development tool, one that focused just on the most essential, the most important and significant titles in the health sciences. And so in 2004, we developed Doody's Core Titles, which is a web-based publication that is updated with a new edition published every single year. And it consists of about 2,200 titles. So just slightly more than 1% of all the titles that are available that have been selected by content experts and librarians in 120 different specialties. We'll talk more about and describe both of these products in more detail. So as I mentioned, Doody's Review Service is our flagship product, and we consider the Doody's Review Service subscribers to be our power users. It costs almost $500 US a year to subscribe to and have full access to the Doody's Review database and the Doody's Review Service. That database provides information on more than 205,000 titles, access to more than 42,000 reviews written by academically affiliated healthcare professionals. We send an email out every Friday to our Doody's Review subscribers, and over the last 12 months, on average, that weekly email got opened 57% of the time. And the Doody's Review Service subscribers visit almost 10,000 web pages per month. So they're up at the website a lot. It is really this is a collection development tool that is integrated into the workflow of the collection development librarian. As I said, we realized we needed to provide something more condensed. And so we introduced Doody's Core Titles in 2004. It is by far our most popular product and has our widest readership. Thanks to partners like Wolters Kluwer, it is our best known product globally. As I said, we have the core titles are selected every single year by a group of about 90 content experts and about 110 librarian selectors. And I'll explain the selection process in just a minute. As you can see, we have two different versions, a basic version and a premium version. And the price points for the basic and premium version compared with the price point for Doody's Review Service is considerably less. So it costs only about 15% of what Doody's Review Service would cost to access Doody's Core Titles. And it provides comprehensive information on those 2,200 titles that have been chosen as the core titles. We have about 5,600 librarians worldwide that have paid subscription access to Doody's Core Titles. And we send those 5,600 people an email every single month about content in the Doody's Core Titles. That email is opened at a rate of almost 20%. And the Doody's Core Titles subscribers, on average, visit about 4,500 web pages per month. Excuse me. The next couple of slides describe Doody's Review Service in more detail. The three adjectives that we use to describe Doody's core titles are timely, comprehensive, and authoritative. It's timely because of the fact that we're producing information about titles as soon as the publisher releases pre-publication information about the titles. We ask our reviewers to take no more than 30 days to review the books that we send them. So we're publishing reviews on average when a book is just 10 weeks old. So that's faster than just about any other review source for a review. And so while the book is still new, the book is still fresh, you're getting an expert review. And the expert review is what causes us to describe our service as authoritative. I've mentioned many times that we've got information on more than 205,000 titles from more than 120 health sciences publishers in 140 different specialties in the health sciences, including the basic sciences, clinical medicine, nursing, the associated health professions, and other health disciplines like medical, legal, and medical ethics. We have a network of over 9,400 academically affiliated healthcare professionals who serve as our expert reviewers, and that's a number that's growing. We add about 400 or 500 new reviewers every single year. And in addition to having a narrative review about every book, there's a quantitative assessment about the book too. Every book receives a score on a 100-point basis, and that score is translated into a 5-star rating: 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, or 5 stars. This screen talks a little bit about the information features at Doody's review service. And so here on the right, you're seeing an image of a screenshot actually of a book, Harrison's Principles of Internal Medicine. This is at the Doody's Review Service website. It indicates with this little icon that it is also a Doody's core title, that it was selected as a Doody's core title. Over here, you can navigate between descriptive information in the citation, the expert review, the questionnaire that the reviewer filled out, and similar titles to this particular book. Every single review is written and features a description, purpose, audience, features, and assessment, so that it's written to a template, and so the content of all of our reviews is easy to digest, and it's quite predictable. Once you've seen a Doody's review, you know what to expect in terms of the way it will be organized and presented. We also identify the reviewer by name, affiliation, and degree. And we also feature a cover image of the book. And we also indicate where the e-version of the book can be accessed. So for example, this book can be accessed at Ovid, and as well as from a couple of other providers. I talked about the fact that every review gets a numerical score and a star rating, and that is derived from the reviewer, the same person who wrote the review, completing a 16-question questionnaire evaluating different elements of the book on a either 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 scale, and it's those scores that are added up to give the score on the basis of 100 points and the star rating. There's 3 different quotes that we conclude our description of Doody's review service with. They're all from collection development librarians, 2 from academic medical centers, 1 in Wisconsin and 1 in Texas, and then a hospital librarian in California. And I'm not going to read these quotes. As Dr. Dravid said, this entire webinar will be posted on the Wolters Kluwer YouTube channel, so you can go back and refer to it. But these quotes do underscore a couple of features, and that's the time-saving feature, how accessible it is and how useful it is on an everyday basis, and also the fact that it's a collaborative tool. Doody's Review Service allows our subscribers to create lists and to share those lists not only with each other, but also with faculty. I next want to talk a little bit about Doody's core titles. And again, this is created by librarians for librarians. It came out in its first edition in 2004. The 2021 edition was published in April. We publish new editions almost every year in April. So each edition represents a completely new selection and scoring process. And it features the core titles and also what are further designated as essential purchase titles in about 120 specialties. The selection process is a four-step process. It starts with the content experts in each of the 120 specialties making the initial selections of what they consider to be the core titles for their specialty. Then we have up to 3 librarian selectors in each specialty reviewing what the content expert has selected. And the librarians have the opportunity to add titles to the list in the event they think that the content expert may have overlooked something. After the librarian selectors all agree on what the list should be for a particular specialty, each of them then is asked to go and score each title on the list, giving it a score of between 0 and 3 on 5 key collection development criteria that I'll review on the next slide with you. So that gives a score between 1.0 and 3.0 to every single book on the Doody's core titles. And then after they're finished scoring, we ask them to go back and take one final look at the list and select from that list what they consider to be the absolutely essential purchase titles. So if they imagine that no library could buy every single title that is in that specialty list of core titles, then they are asked to reduce it further and say, of this, which are the essential purchase titles? And every year, there's about 24 to 26% of the total number of core titles that are further designated as essential purchase titles. Here are the 5 criteria that that each librarian selector scores each book on: the authoritativeness of the author and the publisher, the scope and coverage of the subject matter, the quality of the content, including its timeliness, the usefulness and purpose that the book serves, and finally, its value for money. Those criteria, by the way, were established by our library board of advisors, and they were established based on state-of-the-art collection development practice back in 2004 when we developed this. And our library board looks at those criteria every year just to determine if any changes need to be made. So this is a screenshot from the Doody's Core Titles website. You're looking at a book on drugs, facts, and comparisons. When you click on this, you'd come in and you'd see the entire bibliographic record. You'd be able to access the review, and you'd also see what ebook platforms the book was available from. I conclude my presentation with 2 quotes about Doody's core titles. They both appeared in articles about Doody's core titles that were published in the Journal of the Medical Library Association. This one, published in 2019, is from a new born digital library in Western Michigan. And the librarians at Western Michigan University, with their born digital library, said to help shape the library collection, library directors should take advantage of collection development tools such as Doody's core titles. And then the final quote comes from a librarian in the Philippines who'd conducted a study that was published in the Journal of Medical Library Association in 2017. And he used Doody's collection development Doody's core titles as a measuring stick to evaluate the medical school library book collections in the Philippines. And he basically concluded that Doody's core titles is an important tool for collection analysis among medical libraries. It can be used to measure the value of an existing collection against a set standard, to identify the strengths and weaknesses of a collection, and to compare collections across medical libraries. So I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you all, and I'll be delighted to engage in the question and answer session following Dr. Dipali's presentation.
Thanks, Dan. And this was a brief summary of Doody's reviews and co-titles. And I remember in one of your interview, you did say that like medical publishers in the late 80s and early 90s complained against a lack of system of objective book reviews. So it was not as rigid and objective as it was for the journals. But looking back, so we have come across a long way, and I think it's a testament to the fact still Doody's review stays relevant, and people rely on Doody's review to make their purchasing decisions. And it's a glowing tribute to Doody's review. And as Wolters Kluwer, as publishers, we are happy and honored to be associated with Doody's review. And thank you so much, Dan, for giving us an overview of that. Yeah. So now I would like to welcome Dr. Dipali to share her presentation. I'm over to you. Now you can present. Yeah. We are not able to hear you. Yeah, maybe you can unmute and talk. No, still we are not able to hear you, ma'am. We can see your video.
Am I audible?
Yeah, now we are perfect.
The screen is visible?
Yes, both are visible now. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Dan Doody, to give a very good insight about Doody's core titles and Doody's review service. I will be talking about selection of books for health science libraries from a perspective of Tata Memorial Hospital. I would like to give a brief about Tata Memorial Hospital Digital Library. Tata Memorial Hospital is amongst one of the oldest and largest cancer center in the world, with about more than 75 years of exceptional patient care, high quality training, and innovative cancer research. Our hospital library was been there with us since the inception of this hospital. Although we started with very limited resources, that too predominantly in the form of print. The library has continuously served the clinicians, researchers, aspiring academicians for their various information needs. As we all are aware, the emergence of ICT has acted as a catalyst in the advancement of the nation and played a very pivotal tool in the development of almost all sectors. It is very worthy to note that emergence of ICT has played a pragmatic role for the quality of information the way it has been disseminated through the libraries. The resources changed in the form of digital format, and there were many services which we started providing with the advancement of ICT. The year 2000 was a milestone year for Tata Memorial Hospital Digital Library. We were shifted to a good new place in the ground floor of main building, and we were been renamed as TMH Digital Library. The digital library then was established with a proper objective to provide effective usage and state-of-art technology for communication and distribution of information resources and services, with the main aim to provide speedy and timely access across the campus and facilitate single login. At present, we are being serving to more than 1,500 registered clinicians and academicians, researchers, trainings, and students. The library has enhanced both in the physical collection and the digital resources. We have been completely automized our all library services, and we have a special connection in the field of oncology with a special emphasis on diagnosis, treatment, and prevention, along with research and education. Certain services we offer are more or less similar to any hospital digital library. As I have mentioned, we have been in an automated system. We have been using Koha open source software. We have a real-time web OPAC. We could, users could borrow book from us, recommend books then and there itself through the software. Borrowing facility. Since as I mentioned, our resources, the major shift was in the digital format. So it was very much important, since the resources are available in digital format, to have the access remotely, not in a constrained library library structure. So we too had remote access facility. There are so many resources available in the digital format. So we wanted to have a certain service. So we implemented federated search to provide an amalgamation of all the search results. We provide reference services to users, right from providing the article related information, how to do a systematic reviews, and at times we have also provided ready-made systematic reviews on request. We have internet facility. Since we have a more collection in digital format, we have a computer cell. We do provide photocopying facility. Everything can't be procured by one particular library. Yes, we are in the vicinity. There are many hospital libraries. We do provide interlibrary loan. Access to staff publication. As we are one of the pioneers in the cancer treatment, not only in India, but most in the Asian region, we have major staff who have been publishing a good amount of publications. We do keep access of staff publications with us. So how do we start the book selection? What does the book selection mean? We have to find the appropriate book for the library. It is a professional apex for a librarianship. We have to set an objective to get the right book for the reader and at the right time. Some of the principles what we follow for book selection are need not necessarily to be only for this particular library, but in general for any such library. We need to understand what our users are, who are our users. We have to be familiarized with the subject interest, whether the local, national, or international. We also need to represent all the subjects and apply to the communities and needs and their interest. We have to give preferences to local studies. This do happen with us. We prefer to have local studies trial data available with us. To provide books to an organized group, we have, as far as TMH is concerned, we have a disease management group, wherein we have a particular right from anesthesiast to senior surgeons to medical oncologists till the social workers. So we need to have a complete comprehensive package of providing books to these organized groups. It is very important to provide according to the anticipating demands of potential readers. We need to understand what are going to be the upcoming areas, and we have to keep the our collection accordingly. To avoid, we have to avoid the selection of obsolete or outdated books which has no demand, but we should also keep certain books which are going to have a permanent value to us. So there are certain books which could be considered as Bibles in the hospital. We do need to keep and maintain and continuously have their updated editions with us. These 2 points: to maintain impartiality, discarding special opinions, or to accept the gifts with great cautions, having controversial subjects. We have to avoid getting certain collections into our certain subjects into our collection which has controversial subjects. To provide books, this is very important. We need to have, rather than having a complete collection, it's better to have a comprehensive collection. We should have books on a particular subject, the expert as an author, the best books of those authors, and particularly certain series which are coming up. So we should maintain those. To give preference with caution to an inferior book than which would be widely read over a superior book which might remain dormant on the shelf. So we have to be very cautious. Here quality is most important rather than just getting this. This may not happen with us in a super specialty hospital, but wherein a hospital which has having an say undergraduate courses coming up. So at that place, it is very important to identify and keep books which are of good quality rather than getting a book which is of inferior quality and which might still get widely read by people. So we have to avoid getting selection of this. We ourselves need to keep abreast of the changing and current thoughts and opinion. Keep yourself abreast what is the latest technology and what are the latest updates coming in your subject area. It is also important to give adequate representation to the scientific and intellectual forces for the reach of modern work, to maintain promptness and regularity in selecting new books as far as possible. We are supposed to have, even though we have a smaller plastic surgery department having 1 or 2 senior consultants, but then we do need to appropriately build our collection in such way that each and every department gets a proper collection of books. Now, selection responsibility. Who is going to select? There is a skepticism about the ability of librarians to build up the library collection. This may find true in Indian scenario. These are certain unstated assumptions, we could say. Subjects experts are more capable than librarians for collection building in their own field. Such subject experts will get together, coordinate all the requests, take it up on their own, and provide it to the librarian. This doesn't happen often. However, it would be neither fair or sensible to mention that or to bestow whole responsibility on the libraries to develop a good scholarly communication. Quality judgment is really important. Needless to say, we need to consult to subject experts. Although it is very difficult to receive prompt or cheerful response once you go and happen to get get the selection from a senior consultant. So we have to balance between this. So we have to, they will accept only such reviews from you unless it has been coming from a scholar from a recognized authorities. As far as collection management tools comes, there are when we start considering how do this collection management tools will help us. Say, for example, we are going to build up a collection for a book or select a book for our library. There are various ways. There could be 2 major ways. We are either going for a print version. Again, within print, there are like, are we going to buy an hard copy or are we going to buy a soft copy, soft bound book? As per there are various cost difference into it. When it comes to ebooks, there are various considerations which comes. There could be certain technical considerations like the hardware and software, what would be required, how it would be displayed on the screen. Is it going to be device friendly? It would roll over the text. There could be certain access considerations, like is it going to be a single authentication or simultaneous users could use? Can I lend these ebooks to my users? Then there could be certain procurement considerations, like should we go for a subscription model? Should we go for a perpetual model? Or if it is way too costly, should I go for a pay-per-view model? Or should I allow my patron to do their own patron-driven acquisition? Or should I go with an evidence-based acquisition? So there are various procurement considerations which also take place. The moment ebooks comes into the picture, the licensing parts do come. So we have to be very careful. But be it with whether it's a print book or an ebook, the most important is the content. The content quality consideration is the utmost important when it comes to procurement of book, be it print or ebook. So we have to be very careful while getting this content related considerations. Can we depend upon certain collection management tools? So how do we use to get this data from us? The conventional ways used to be, publisher used to let us know what are the latest books which are been made available. Vendors and aggregators used to come to us with their own packages. There are certain good subject related journals which will themselves will come up with a review into it, but not all are being reviewed. There are hardly 1 or 2 review of a book which comes. Should we depend upon an independent book reviews? There used to be a publisher, there is a publisher weekly which is far more used in academic sector. There comes Doody's review service for health science libraries. I would like to touch upon the Doody's review. I have been using this Doody's review for past couple of weeks. What I had found out of it, although Dan Doody has already explained a lot about it, I would like to give a brief view what I identified while using it. So what these Doody's core titles are going to provide me? It provides me specialties in clinical medicine, basic sciences, nursing, allied health, and associated with health professions. So this is basically core titles in health science specialization. This collection development tool represents collective wisdom of more than around 200 medical libraries, content experts on the must-have titles in more than 120 plus specialties. The selection of title of DCT is already in 4 steps, which has been clearly mentioned by Dan Doody. I would like to simplify slightly by mentioning we identify the titles have been identified by a specialty. It has been reviewed. The rating has been given on a certain parameter. So there is no bias onto it. The parameters are been fixed. And then whether there is a consideration of it being adding into an essential purchase list. So essential purchase list are nothing but must-have titles in your collection. Doody's review service. Doody's review service is a leading source for the experts' authoritative quality assessment and collection development tool for medical, nursing, and allied health books. Doody's review service fully integrates the latest edition of Doody's core titles. So once I have this Doody's review service, I need not need to go separately to have this Doody's core title. It has been available within it. It provides access to most up-to-date recommendations. You could have a list of titles by specialty. I tried using it for my me being a super specialty in oncology. I had tried making my own selection of oncology, gastroenterology, and try to get the listing. I will show it in my next slide. And then there is a unique title list. Now what happens within a specialty, there is a possibility that the same title might appear in 2 different specialties. So we also get to have a unique title listing. It does provide a good amount, a good clean, clear, quick search. Could search books with author, title, ISBN. Then there is an advanced search where varieties of search criteria and filters are being provided. I could go by a particular copyright year, or maybe according to the scoring, and there are various other options, like I need to find out a particular specialty. I just want to know what all titles fall under gastroenterology. So there are various other search filters being provided into it. So once I make a search, what do I get? I get a clear bibliographical details. I get a clear expert review. Then the score of the questionnaire, then and there itself, you could see how it has been scored. The star ratings are being provided. So and probably sometimes a very young budding librarian may not identify, there could be a technical complexities. It is better to look at the star ratings. It's very easier to find out, okay, this particular book has a good rating, so we could have it in our collection. In health sciences, we have been noticed there are various editions which comes up for the titles. So there and there itself, you could compare within the editions. So if a book has a previous 2 editions and it has been already reviewed by Doody's, there itself you will be getting, you will get to compare it with the previous editions. What were the score of the previous edition books? Again, you can search according to Doody's core title score. So in case if you're trying to have a good score, you want to have a very good selection. So you could add up according to score and restrict your search accordingly. You want to know whether I need to find out only essential titles or particular copyright year or particular within a particular prices range. You could also have search options provided. It does allow a fair amount of personalization. Since I have updated my specialty, once you update your specialty profile, you will start getting your weekly literature update according to your subject interest. I can build up my own listing. I tried using this. We have been recently going to start a course on occupational therapy. So we tried to build up a list of occupational therapy books, which was been very much helpful. The same could be printed out. I could straight away email it to the concerned head of the department. We could share it across. So it is very simple to use it. It does this is one more important thing what I felt, the costing of books. It so happened as we are in government hospital, we happen to get to know all of a sudden certain particular funding has come up. So once I have a funding, maybe the department will ask, since we have received the funding, can we go ahead with the books? So this review service will provide you an average cost of book, the total cost of book or year on comparison as well. So having an ready-made listing along with the costing is going to be helpful. I was very keen when I started using this Doody's review. I wanted to know how much percentage of my collection match with my with the Doody score title. We are a pioneer in cancer care hospital, having 75-year plus experience, and we have been meticulously planning our titles, building up our collection. So I wanted to know whether how far it would be matching with the Doody score title. So since I had a very less time, I chose 3 particular areas: oncology, surgery, radiation oncology, and hematology, just to see how much percentage it does match. In oncology surgery, we noticed we have around 40% titles available with us, which falls under in Doody's core titles. And we have around 70% essential titles. Similarly, for radiation, we have around 60% in Doody's core titles and 80% in the essential titles. So hematology, again, 60% in the core title listing and 100% in the essential. This gave me this statistics. Closely looking at this figures gave me an confidence that the Doody's review titles are been say relevant to my own collection in my subject area. I could find out at least the essentials are above 60, around 60 plus, more than 70 to 100%. So there is still a slight gap within the main core titles, which we would definitely be this Doody's review core listing will be helpful to bridge that gap. So this gave me a confidence in the Doody's review service as well, and in general how sound my collection is as compared to the current trend going on. So we could say these are the major stakeholders are the librarians and the publishing, and even the users. As far as librarian, Doody has already mentioned, we have around more than 5,600 libraries which are already using Doody's core titles, and there are many publishers. I have cited only few who have been promoting their books which falls under Doody's core titles. So you could see Walter's Kluwer has come up with their own core title, Doody's core title. Again, Oxford, you could see eBooks. Episco has a Doody's medical ebook collection. Even Theme has come up with their own titles falling under Doody's core title listing. What I would like to mention over here is, as far as journals are concerned, when it falls under, it gets indexed with PubMed, the quality is been considered as having a high standard. So what PubMed is for journals, I could say Doody's reviews are for books. So it is, I could compare it with a similar high standard reviewing process, the way PubMed has been using for journals, a similar pattern, and there is no bias into it, on the same lines, having certain subject experts into it. So it is always good to have this Doody's core title listing along with for developing. Rather than summarizing, I would say certain points for discussions. Librarians should always have an art of selecting books. I need to know how the books are to be selected for my library. Since you know your library better, you know your clientele better, you need to know how I'm supposed to select. You also know how the budgeting is going to come to us. Reviews do play a very important role in collection building. It can help me identify which is a very important title or certain poor titles. As I mentioned, there could be certain titles which could be widely used but may not have that good quality. So may avoid adding it to your collection. The usefulness of the book reviews in guiding selection is much greater in the times when the budgets are flat or restricted budgets. Say, for example, we have a typically large library and who are been very well funded, and they might have been directly given and standing instructions to the vendors as and when the new edition comes, straight away bill us and send it to us. Such a big well-funded libraries may afford to delay in getting certain receiving certain reviews, although they could still use it so that they have a ready-made listing, and since they have the budget, they can directly go ahead and procure. But in case where the funds are insufficient and the libraries are new, or the librarians are coming up with new specialties, they will have to rely more on the book reviews. Practicing library may not read, as I mentioned earlier, the practicing may not read the whole content due to the subject complexity. So it is very, the review comes very handy to identify, getting an overall judgment from some experts in the form of grading. Looking at the star itself, I could find out this book is worth adding into my collection, or if it has been mentioned as an essential title, it should be there into my collection. The true collection happens when we know which book falls under essential. So this helps us in promptly procurement of that particular title. The greatest strength of Doody's core title, what I found was it been having a comprehensive listing, having the participation of large number of professionals. I found this tool could be very much useful in building up your collection. All the names of the content specialist and the library selectors are very well been already displayed onto it. So on the website, and even the particular say specialist, content specialist or library selected, under what subject areas they are been selecting the books was been mentioned. What I felt more was probably if we have a specialty wise list of content specialist or library selector, it could have been still more helpful. Librarians always play a challenging role in optimizing the insufficient funding. With this, as I mentioned earlier, where the budgets are flat, the librarians have to play a very important role to identify which book is required for us and which has a good quality. So that's where certain such independent reviewing systems are found helpful. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks for providing me this opportunity to speak to you all.
Thank you, ma'am. It was indeed a very elaborate presentation, and there were a lot of things which you said sort of quite new for me, and especially when you said sort of organized groups. So you club those books into few specialities based on your liking. So it's a new sort of innovative idea, which I think other institutions can also replicate. And also you did strike a real chord when you said balance is the key, because that was one of my questions which I wanted to ask you as well. How do you strike a balance when the recommendations coming from faculty and also quality and also price? So how do you maintain that? So you sort of aptly put all these things together. So and thank you so much for giving this talk. So before opening up for the question and answers, so I just have a couple of slides which I want to show from a Wolters Kluwer perspective. So how we associate with Doody's core titles and Doody's review services, and how we help our users in yeah. Yes, so you can see. Wolters Kluwer has a quick and easy access to more than 5,000 or high quality resources in multiple range of subjects, starting from anesthesiology to virology, pharmacology. We cover almost most of the specialties in the medical segment. With our association for Doodys, so we have listed in terms of Doody's core collection and also essential collection. For example, if we take Doody's core collection, so we have the book published by Lippincott in medicine, nursing, and health sciences, and that have been designated as Doody's core titles. These are this selection is done by academically affiliated healthcare professionals, and these are considered as must-have resources for practitioners, researchers, and by students. So I have listed few of the titles which form Doody's core collection. It varies from ophthalmology to medical physics to orthopedics to radiation oncology. So sort of what you said as who's who and Bible of many specialties. So though they are listed in Doody's core collection. And the next one is Doody's essential collection. So it is a smaller version of this Doody's core collection, which contains over 60 premium books from Doody's core titles. So this has been recommended as essential purchases for institutions. So for institutions who are planning to go for a first cut of what are the essential list they should have, they can opt for this, or people who are planning to recommend, willing to expand their existing medical research portfolio, so they can also look for this. So this is something which I wanted to share, our association with respect to Doodys. Now over to our question and answer session. So both of the speakers, there are a couple of interesting questions as well, and I'll just start with Dan. And then, based on your experience, you might have interacted with many librarians and academic heads. So what do you think from your collective experience are the best policies and practice to improve the quality of collection in an institute?
Well, thank you for the question. In my experience, the major issue is the lack of funds to purchase books. As you know, the cost of journals has risen quite dramatically over the last 20 years, and the emergence of platforms has also occurred during that period of time, and platforms that require institutional licenses for access. The collection development budgets have been steered much more towards keeping pace with or keeping your collection up to date with the journals that you need for your researchers and for your faculty, and getting proper exposure to the proper platforms. With the lack of availability of collection development funds, this really has impacted the amount of money librarians can spend on books. And so it makes every decision about a book especially crucial. And it's important to get as much information about, as Dr. Dipali said, the needs of your clientele, balanced against your own resources, what's already in your collection, what's newly available, and what some outside experts think about it, not only your faculty, but review services like the Doody's Review Service. So I think that the collection development for books has become increasingly challenging over the years, and the librarians can't really afford to make a bad decision. If you choose 4 books and you spend $600 on those 4 books, and 2 of them don't hit the mark, that's a big problem.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. And there are 2-3 questions which are on a similar theme, and I would try to summarize into a single question, and maybe you can answer that. So it's again based on digitalization of books. So at first, the digitalization of books moved more slowly when we compare with journals, and what this transformation of this content has meant for the medical institutes and academic institutes, and how do you think they are using it? Maybe you can give us a relevant comparison with Western world and also countries like India, Philippines, or Indonesia, so Southeast Asian nations. So that would give us an understanding of what is the direction for us to move forward and what should be our efforts.
So I think that the digitization of the books obviously gives the library the opportunity to make the content available to multiple users at the same time, as opposed to lending out a print book to somebody and then waiting for that person to return it before the next person can take it out. So it makes the content available to a wider group of people and more efficiently. The problem with the digitization of books is that it's still an emerging business, and there are multiple platforms. The platforms don't talk to each other. There are different licensing terms that are involved in dealing with each of the aggregators' platforms. And so it makes it difficult for a librarian to manage what books do I want to get. The books that might be perfect for a library aren't going to be found just on a single platform. They'll need to decide among several platforms which of the platforms provide the greatest combination of titles that would serve their constituents. And then all of those platforms have different sign-on procedures and have different rules and protocols for access. And that's all education that the librarian has to do then to the end user community, is to let them know exactly how they can use each of these platforms, what the differences between the platforms are, what the utility of those platforms are. So I think that while it's a great thing that there's competition, and I think it's a detriment to the library and it's a detriment to the end user that there's such lack of standardization among all of the platforms who are offering ebook packages.
Yeah, and thanks. That sort of gives us that lack of standardization amongst different platforms. It's a question, not just it's a problem not just for India. I think it's a challenge across the world, I guess. Yeah, thanks, Dan. And maybe another question for Dr. Dipali, and it's a question which has come up, and also I felt was the tactic which you said that you choose, especially in TMS, you choose organized groups and then you select titles or books on that basis. So how do you can you just elaborate a bit more on that? It would be helpful for the participants as well, so that they can sort of replicate in their institutions.
See, we have, as I mentioned, we have a particular disease management group, so which essentially involves right from anesthesia people to surgeons, then the medical oncologist, and even social workers at times. So there has to be a balanced view. So we have to identify, try and speak to these people, as I had already mentioned. It's very difficult to get a cheerful and very prompt response from them. So librarian plays a very key important role here. We have to identify books out of with all the other provided resources, right from the publishers. We need to remain vigilant. We proactively have to go up to them and find out whether this would be far more better and helpful to us. Or at times there are certain proactive senior consultants who come up with, like, this has new come up, we could have it into our collection. But this all remains till the level what is my reach and accessibility to understand and find out what new has come up. There could be certain title which I might have not found it far more better, but it could be far more better book. Probably it has been added into some independent reviews like Doody's review. So having certain such reviews would probably definitely help us. So we try to identify books, provide it to the faculties, they identify and choose out of it. There is quite a possibility sometimes none of them get selected. There is a possibility that the moment I ask them whether we need to go for these two books, they'll remove it and they'll add certain few for new books. So it depends
Agreed.
upon, we have to remain vigilant. We have to bring it to their notice that this is the new, new upcoming course which is coming up. So you have to please let us know what has to be procured. So it does happen a lot for books as far as books are concerned. In case of journals, we do get it very instantly.
Okay.
And we have more on focus on the journals since clinical trials, there are many other things which are coming up. So focus is more on the journals than books.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. And I think this brings a close to our session because we are already sort of extending by 5 or 6 odd minutes. And thank you very much for Dan. And again, I want to reiterate, we are it's a pleasure talking to you, and it's an honor for us to host you. And thank you so much. And thanks, Dr. Dipali, and for giving us this brilliant overview of how TMH is using the review services and how you are making this as one of the state-of-the-art library across the country. And once again, thank you very much for all the participants. And as I said, so please give your feedback, and a recording of this session would be shared with everyone. And thank you very much. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.